What's behind the latest sackings in Saudi Arabia's royal family? The commander of the Saudi-led war in Yemen and his son are accused of corruption and dismissed. Is the path being cleared for the crown prince to become king? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Imran Khan. Many royal family members in Saudi Arabia have been sacked or detained ever since Mohammed Bin Salman was appointed Crown Prince 3 years ago. Two princes are the latest to be purged. King Salman sacked Fahd bin Turki, the commander of the Saudi-led war in Yemen, and bin Turki's son is no longer deputy governor of a region in the northwest of the kingdom. Both are under investigation for alleged suspicious transactions at the Defence Ministry. Critics say Mohammed bin Salman's anti-corruption campaign is really an excuse for the 35-year-old Crown Prince to remove anyone blocking his path to becoming king. 3 senior royals were arrested in March, including the king's younger brother, Prince Al-Ahmed bin Abdulaziz, and the former Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef. A few days later, police investigating bribery and exploiting public office arrested at least 300 government officials, military and security officers. Family members of former top intelligence agent Saad al-Jabri have also been detained. He's filed a lawsuit in the US accusing bin Salman of sending a hit squad to Canada to murder him 2 years ago. And in 2017, dozens of Saudi royal family members, ministers and businessmen were held at a luxury hotel in Riyadh. Most of them were released after reaching settlements with the kingdom, including paying large fines. Let's bring in our guests. In Ireland's capital, Dublin, Abdulaziz Almoayyad, a Saudi human rights activist and founding member of the Saudi Diaspora Party. In London, Bill Law, editor of the Arab Digest newsletter, and in Washington, D.C., Ali Al-Ahmed, director at the Institute for Gulf Affairs. A warm welcome to you all. I'd like to begin in Washington, D.C. with you, Ali Al-Ahmed. Should the world be congratulating Mohammed bin Salman for fighting corruption in his country, or should they be condemning him for getting rid of his rivals once more? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's either or. Maybe Fahd bin Turki is corrupt, but the biggest corrupt official in Saudi Arabia is Mohammed bin Salman himself. So this is not about fighting corruption. This is about eliminating any challenge or opposition or contenders within the ruling family of Al Saud. It has nothing to do with corruption.
But if you're going to rule a country, Ali Ahmed, at some point, which is likely to be what the Crown Prince is going to do, you're going to need allies. He's arrested 300 people so far, government officials, military security officials. He's arrested several senior princes. Has he got anybody left in his corner?
I think he still has some in his corner. However, Mohammed bin Salman he likes to be a one-man show type of person. He does not want any contenders, any people who object or raise questions about any policy. That's his personality. So he does not like anybody who would say but. He likes to hear. He wants to have yes men around him. And that's what he's doing by eliminating. Other people are on the chopping block. I would assume and predict that, for example, the head of the Saudi state security, Abdulaziz is going to be on the chopping block. It's the same guy who is now his enforcer.
Well, talking of people who do disagree vehemently with the Crown Prince, we have one of those joining us on the show today in Dublin, Abdulaziz Al-Moayyad. What do you make of this latest round of firings? Do you think that it is a complete purge, or is he doing it for corruption reasons?
Now, I want to give a little background about the claim of fighting corruption that Mohammed bin Salman is using for a while now. First of all, the Al Saud family, they are all corrupt, or most of them, sorry, not all, most of them corrupt, especially when it comes to public offices. So they held most of the important positions in Saudi Arabia, and there is a lot of corruption going on. And a lot of people was in jail and still in jail. Some of them died for this narrative, saying that this government, that is led by this absolute monarchy, the family is very corrupt, like Al-Ahmed and others. Now, the Saudi government or Mohammed bin Salman is saying that narrative. So in the Reds and in this instance, and this guy, just to be clear, Mohammed bin Salman is the guy who put him in power. So he been a general under Mohammed bin Salman, and he the head of the joint forest, but under Mohammed bin Salman. But he put corrupt people so he can control them and eliminate them. So the claim of fighting corruption in this case is very weak, because this is a political smearing campaign and redistribution of wealth between corrupt identities. Mohammed bin Salman, when he got them in the Reds, he didn't treat them like he treated Lujain al-Hadlul. She is in jail without a court order until now. But he put them in a hotel and asked them for a ransom to get out. This is not fighting corruption. Like, if you are corrupt, you go to jail if I really want to fight corruption, because the law goes in everybody. So the claim of law and order doesn't fly here. And a small note that the decisions come after midnight in Saudi Arabia. Now, a lot of important decisions and the reports of different journalists like Thomas Friedman, when he met Mohammed bin Salman, he worked at night. So it wasn't a work of officials in anti-corruption office, because they work in the morning like any normal government. This was from Mohammed bin Salman office. So it is a political thing. And it's a shame that Mohammed bin Salman is using a beautiful and most needed concept, fighting corruption in Saudi Arabia, to use it as a political tool. The same thing he used.
Well, Abdulaziz, let me just bring in Bill Law here. Bill, you're in London. Certainly, the allegations of corruption are very serious. They haven't been proven yet, but the allegations are there. Certainly from people, Saudis living outside of the kingdom itself. They're much more vocal about the allegations of corruption. Is anybody buying that? Is anybody buying that he is fighting corruption?
Well, look, I think it's clear that he's using the corruption as a kind of umbrella to get rid of potential threats to him, to express his frustration, his anger that things aren't going his way. He's a very impatient young man. But I also think that the anti-corruption line plays well with the youth constituency, which in many instances still supports him quite strongly. Every Saudi knows that the royal family is corrupt, massively, hugely corrupt. And there is deep frustration because ordinary Saudis experience it on an almost daily basis. They're being asked to undertake cuts. They're facing austerity programs. The prices are going up. The job situation isn't what it was promised to be. The anti-corruption crusade becomes quite a winner, I think, domestically, in Saudi Arabia for this youth constituency. I mean, after all, 60% rather of the Saudi population, 70% is under the age of 35. And he's still able to play this card that what he's doing is carrying out an anti-corruption drive. Now, I agree that Mohammed bin Salman is himself up to his eyeballs in corruption. Where did the $500 million come for the yacht that he purchased, or the $350 million for the villa in France, or indeed the $450 million for Salvador Mundi? No, I think that most Saudis look at the House of Saud and see corruption, smell corruption, and the stench of it. But when Mohammed bin Salman plays that card, I think it has a certain resonance for young Saudis.
In Washington, D.C., Ali, let's talk about this idea of corruption. Let's talk about this idea that actually it might be quite good for the Crown Prince to use it as a distraction technique, because the war in Yemen simply isn't going that well.
Indeed, the war in Yemen is not going well, especially in the past 2 weeks, and it's not going to go well for many reasons. That's a program in its own. Not only because those who are fighting the Saudi and the UAE in Yemen are now the majority of the population, and they have this history of fighting invaders, but because also the way that Saudi army, including somebody like Fahd bin Turki, who was the commander of the joint forces, he does not have the military skills and training for this position. It's because MBS put him in there. I have tracked this man for the past 15, 16 years and know of his skills. It's because he's from the Al Saud. He was put in this position. He does not have. It's not based on his merits that he is in this position. When you put somebody who is not qualified to be a military commander, the result you get is that this is in addition to the fact that going into Yemen and invading Yemen was proven wrong in 2009. So trying a failure after a failure is one of the stupidest things that MBS has done, and it will come to haunt him very soon. I think that is a critical issue. The fact now that the leader, the Saudi commander of the invading forces in Yemen is arrested, it's going to translate to extreme and widespread disappointment and weakening of morals within the Saudi army, our armed forces that are fighting that war. And you will see people maybe running away to the Yemenis or surrendering in mass numbers and maybe turning more against the Saudis. This happened to other armies who have failed in their conquest. The mid-level of officers turn against their leadership because they have brought them to a losing war. And that's going to be something that we will talk about in the next few months when you will see Saudi units turning against this MBS and the Saudi government. You will see that happening, definitely.
Let's bring in Bill Law here. Bill, where's the king in all of this? Over the last 3 years, we've seen the Crown Prince be involved or allegedly involved in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, the Saudi journalist, in the consulate in Istanbul. We've seen an Aramco IPO that didn't go that well. We've seen the Crown Prince try and consolidate power. Where is the king in all of this? Why does he seem to be indulging this particular Crown Prince?
Mohammed bin Salman has for many years been the gatekeeper for Salman. His favorite son, even from the age of 12, Mohammed bin Salman was sitting in on Salman's meetings and digesting information and learning as he went along. And I think Mohammed bin Salman has played a very strong role, particularly since Salman ascended to the throne. And that role has much to do with the debilitating illnesses that Salman has. You know, I certainly have it on good sources that he suffers from a form of dementia that means that his concentration cannot last very long. At certain times, he will flare up and challenge Mohammed bin Salman, most acutely on the so-called Kushner deal of the century, when he made it very clear that if Mohammed bin Salman was going along with Kushner, the Saudis and King Salman himself certainly were not. And he very firmly said no to that proposal deal of the century. But by and large, this is a frail king who is controlled pretty much entirely by this headstrong, powerful, arrogant young man who makes all of the decisions really in the kingdom. He is the de facto leader, that's very clear. And when he wants to make a move, I think as Ali quite rightly said, that this all came from Mohammed bin Salman, although the king issued the decree arresting Fahd and Fahd's son. This was all out of Mohammed bin Salman's office. And I think it's important that we realize that Salman is very much a figurehead king. Most of the time, I don't think he has the attention or the intellectual ability to run the country, particularly during this very difficult and very challenging time.
Abdulaziz Almoayyad, he's the de facto king. MBS as our guest in London. He's very powerful. He's calling all the shots. Is there anybody that might be able to challenge him? Might we see a resurgence of Mohammed bin Nayef?
Now, just putting a little light that King Salman was the prince or the ruler of Riyadh for years and years before he became king. and the incidence of people disappearing from Riyadh is known for us who are living in Riyadh, that people disappear. So some of the practices that Mohammed bin Salman comes with as ruthless and very harsh against any opinion or dissidents, this is a profile that his dad approved. So choosing Mohammed bin Salman is choosing somebody who fits the profile and goes with the legacy. Mohammed bin Salman, the way he's acting, it give there's a problem with Mohammed bin Salman. My colleague said that Mohammed bin Salman have the youth support behind him. I disagree with that fact, because I can assure you that Lujain al-Hadlul is more popular among the youngs than Mohammed bin Salman. Not only this, Mohammed bin Salman pay, as the social media companies say, for bots and employees that the social media companies have to close because of the propaganda. On the other hand, when the support for Lujain al-Hadlul, when somebody starts an initiative, come with 100 of young people who are in risk to be as the same distance as Jamal, because they are inside of Saudi Arabia. So I have to challenge that point. But Mohammed bin Salman knows that he come to a place that he wasn't supposed to be. Each king, Abdullah have Mut'ab bin Abdullah, his son, and he was preparing him to become a king. Fahd before him has Abdulaziz bin Fahd. So there is a tradition, because the monarchy is going from brother to brother. Each of them try to bring his own son.
Abdulaziz, let's actually put your challenge. Let's put your challenge to Ali Al-Ahmed in Washington, D.C. Abdulaziz says, actually, Mohammed bin Salman isn't as popular amongst the youth as he thinks he is, and there are other people, other contenders, other challengers that might be able to rise up. Do you think that's true?
I mean, the claim that he is popular has no proof. That is something that's been said again and again, but there is no way for us to know. But clearly, he's not. And that's because the economic conditions have worsened under his rule. The oppression under his rule has increased. That to the highest levels ever in Saudi history. So the claim that he's popular among the youth, I think, is not true. Yes, there is a small group of dedicated employees and loyalists who are trying to climb this ladder, absolutely, but they are not the majority of the people. And if MBS was certain and confident that he has the support of the youth, he would allow Al Jazeera and other independent public opinion measuring companies to take polls and give the result. The problem is in that country, it's the kingdom of silence, is the iron curtain kingdom. We do not know the facts, but everything that we have indicates that he is not popular. Like Abdulaziz said, Lujain al-Hadlul and other young activists who are in jail are most likely more popular than MBS is. Again, this is, I think, a mute point, because it's not important how popular it is. And this is something I remember one time I told a member of the ruling family, if the people want you, why don't you have an election to prove it? But you don't, because the Saudi monarchy does not even trust the people of that country to vote in municipal elections. Lujain al-Hadlul, for example, was not allowed to participate in these meaningless municipal elections for councils that have no power. So no, I would agree with Abdulaziz. MBS is not a popular individual in the country.
Bill Law in London. Has Mohammed bin Salman therefore won? Is he simply too powerful for anybody to take on? He's arrested and got rid of and outmaneuvered most of his other rivals.
Well, look, I'd agree with my colleagues that the degree of popularity that Mohammed bin Salman has with young Saudis is debatable. And I also think the time is running out for him with young Saudis. There are two issues that face the Saudis. One is affordable housing, the other is meaningful jobs. And on both those fronts, Mohammed bin Salman's vaunted Vision 2030 was supposed to deliver. And on both those fronts, he's signally failed to deliver. And I think particularly with the economy in the terrible shape that it's in, with the world beginning to turn its back on oil, with the damage that COVID-19 is doing, he will face severe challenges from people who become increasingly disaffected and really see that all of these promises are not being delivered upon. Meanwhile, he's spending vast amounts of money on these vanity projects such as the NEOM artificial intelligence city, $500 billion just on that one project alone. So yes, questions are beginning to be asked, but only very, very privately. And my colleagues are correct. This is a state of fear, a kingdom of fear that Mohammed bin Salman brooks no criticism and certainly will dispense with any rivals or any perceived rivals in very, very brutal fashion. Now, is there anybody out there that can challenge him? Well, I don't see anybody out there that can challenge him. He's pretty well done away with all of his significant threats. Ahmed is in jail, charged with treason. Mohammed bin Naif, similarly in jail, charged with treason. Various other people done away with, done down, jailed. Fahd is, I suppose, the latest casualty in this front, but he can only go on so long, scapegoating and claiming anti-corruption drives before the mantra starts to wear out. And I do think he is on a rather short lead. I think there are threats. I don't think they're going to come from.
Well, let me just bring in Abdulaziz Almoayyad here. You've heard what our guest in London has had to say. You're a very vocal member of the Saudi opposition. You're very critical of the kingdom, but your voice isn't being heard, and Mohammed bin Salman is winning. Has your opposition movement lost?
Let me start by the following point. Trump said before he came to power in America that he will get money from the Saudis. And in one of his calls to King Salman, as he said, King Salman, you wouldn't stay in power for 2 weeks if it weren't for our support. The point here is Mohammed bin Salman is acting very aggressively because he feels that others could come and fill his shoes. Because he lose the Islamic parts of the society or the conservative. We have Sheikh Salman Al-Auda is in prison. He have 14 million followers on Twitter. On the other hand, the liberals, we have Lujain Al-Hadlul, who has been reported to be sexually harassed. Now, in the royal family, the stick that Mohammed bin Salman is playing with, saying the royal family is corrupt, is a dangerous one. The previous kings didn't use this tool for a reason, because the family used to stick together. Now, if you are putting the narrative that says that the last king's sons was corrupt in power, then you broke the idea that the royal family or the absolute monarchy is about keeping somebody above the greed of the politics and somebody who is there for the country first.
Abdulaziz, we are running out of time, and I do want to put your point to Ali Al-Ahmed in Washington, D.C. Are cracks beginning to appear in the royal family, as Abdulaziz has just said?
Yeah, indeed. Look, Fahd bin Turki is the only one, or the most likely individual. Him being a grandson of Abdulaziz, can claim to the throne, has a military position, can mount some kind of a challenge or a military coup. That's a possibility there. Now that's him. His wife is the daughter of King Abdullah. Abir bint Abdullah is under house arrest. Her children and their grandchildren are all under house arrest and behind bars. So it shows that this ruling family has a history of killing each other. Abdulaziz, the founder of Kingdom Saudi Arabia, actually murdered his own younger brother in that process. The Saudi history has this challenges and murders and palace coups and so on. But now we are seeing it in a wider scale. We've seen it more in the public. So indeed, there is cracks, and this threatens the existence of the Saudi monarchy itself. So, but MBS wants to make Saudi Arabia his Arabia. It's going to be MBS Arabia, not Saudi Arabia, and that could be what he aims to achieve. And he needs to get rid of all these contenders and rivals, and he's doing it without challenge. The American administration supports him fully. It doesn't matter human rights or whatever, religious freedom. It's all for show in America, but reality is they are supporting him, and he will achieve it with the support of the UAE. In the short term, I think he will be on top, but long term, I don't think that will be efficient to survive, because the population are running angry, and we see it today across the country from the north to Medina region. Yesterday we had clashes between security forces and the population who have been displaced, and their villages have been razed by the greed of MBS.
I want to thank all our guests, Abdulaziz, Almoayyad, Bill Law and Ali Al-Ahmed. And thank you too for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And you can also join the conversation on Twitter. We are at AJ Inside Story. From me, Imran Khan, and the whole team here in Doha, bye for now.